Good evening and welcome to our 2020 Universal Notre Dame Celebration. I'm Leanne Tokars, a proud graduate of Notre Dame, class of 2003, and a former resident of Welsh Family Hall. And I'm so happy to be here with you tonight. Thank you for joining us tonight from around the world and across our Notre Dame family. If you tuned in just a few minutes earlier, you may have heard and seen some of our talented students taking part in the Notre Dame Music Festival just a few weeks ago inside the stadium. It is amazing the amount of talent we have on campus at Notre Dame, and we are happy to share some of that with you tonight. Now, I am honored to be joined tonight by Dolly Duffy. She's from the class of 1984 and Executive Director of your Notre Dame Alumni Association. Dolly, how are you?
Thanks, Leanne. Anytime I can gather with the Notre Dame family, I'm great. And tonight is one of those nights. We're really grateful to have you here with us this evening. And although I wish we could be together in person, I'm looking forward to a memorable night with the Notre Dame family. As many of you already know, UND Celebrations are one of the longest-standing Notre Dame Alumni Association traditions, dating back to 19... night. It was a radio broadcast featuring University President Father Matthew Walsh and legendary head football coach Knute Rockne. Now tonight, our legendary football coach, Coach Kelly, won't be with us because he's preparing for his first away game of the season at Pitt, if you can imagine that. But he sends his best wishes. Who knew then that almost 100 years later, Notre Dame alumni and friends would still be gathering from backyards to banquet halls to celebrate all things Notre Dame? But of course, we all know that 2020 has not gone as planned for any of us. When we gathered in anticipation and hope with friends and family just this past New Year's Eve, surely no one could have expected the curveballs that we would soon face. And while the circumstances of the pandemic have prevented us from sending Notre Dame faculty and staff speakers to our communities all over the country as we normally would, we're so excited tonight to harken back to the old days, rallying the broader Notre Dame family together for a one-night-only celebration.
Dolly, thank you. And what a night we have planned. Tonight, we are grateful to be joined by University President Father John Jenkins, Charles and Jill Fisher Provost, Lynn Miranda, and Vice President and James E. Hoare, Director of Athletics, Jack Swarbrick. We'll also visit a number of this year's award-winning clubs, and we might even have a surprise guest or two. It is going to be quite the night. You know, like Father Walsh and Coach Rockne did almost a century ago, Father John, Lynn, and Jack will provide us with a state of the university to update us and share with us about how the students, the faculty, and the staff are navigating the numerous challenges we all are facing in 2020. They'll also bring back some of your important questions submitted by you, our Notre Dame family. But before we get to those interviews, we want to celebrate our broader Notre Dame family. And with that, let's visit some of our incredible Notre Dame clubs around the globe.
Hello from Churchill Downs in the bluegrass state of Kentucky.
We are happy to be raising our bourbon glasses with our Notre Dame family tonight.
Good evening. I'm Tom Vitrudo, President of Staten Island Club. I'm greeting you from Catholic Charities of Staten Island, along with Joe Delaney, Executive Director of the Bread of Life Food Drive.
Tom, thank you very much. We are here at Catholic Charities and Staten Island Food Pantry, who have been our partners in delivering food to people in need for the past 25 years. From this location, we've delivered thousands of items of food that have helped people, and it most recently includes our Bread of Life Food Drive, our Holt's Heroes, and Meals with Muffins. As we say on Staten Island, go Ireland!
Good morning from Hong Kong. My name is Rebecca Fong. I'm the co-president of the Alumni Club here. Behind me is the Victoria Harbor, where historically people from different cultures speaking different languages encountered and created new lives together. In Hong Kong, the only constant is change. As the city writes its next chapter, our club will continue to be a source of comfort, support, and dialogues. We welcome you to this miraculous city.
Hey Notre Dame family, welcome to Orange County, California. It's not just a beautiful place to live, it's a great place to be Irish. UND Night's a big deal out here, but this year things are different. We're virtually celebrating our service to others in our community, where we've rallied to keep our 32-year streak alive feeding the homeless, how we've supported our students and one another, and how we're having fun as the Fighting Irish community in the OC. From all of us at the ND Club of Orange County, stay safe, be well, and go Irish.
Go Irish! Go Irish!
Hi, I'm Martha Wendell France, class of 91. And as the 2020 Award of the Year recipient, it's an honor for me to welcome you to Greater Cincinnati, home of the AA Club of the Year. In addition to the Reds, Bengals, and Skyline Chili, we're also the proud home of approximately 1,960 Notre Dame alum, 2,100 more friends and family, and 135 Notre Dame undergrads, including Notre Dame Student Body President, Senior Rachel Engel. Go Irish!
Hello, fellow Fighting Irish. I'm speaking to you all the way from the Inner Harbor of Baltimore, Maryland. My name is Dr. Adebola Giwa, and I was one of the inaugural recipients of the Domer Dozen Award, recognizing young alumni, where I was recognized for both my service work and research searching for a cure for type 1 diabetes. It has also been my honor to serve as the past president and current diversity chair of the Alumni Club of Maryland, where we have been able to do loads of engaging work to support seniors, vets, and disadvantaged minorities with initiatives such as Helping Hands and Adopt a Class. But despite COVID, we continue to fight the good fight here, as I'm sure you are over there, because we are ND. So be safe and go Irish.
Oh, how I've missed seeing all of our incredible volunteer leaders over the past few months. And I have to tell you, I've really missed all of your hugs. Thanks for taking time to say hello to our audience tonight. I'm grateful tonight to introduce our first guest and my classmate, and I might add my boss, Lou Nani, Vice President for University Relations. In his role, Lou oversees the Alumni Association, as well as the incredible work of our development office. In addition to receiving his bachelor's degree as a member of the class of 1984, the best class, I might add, Lou earned his master's from Notre Dame in International Peace Studies in 1988. He and his amazing wife, Carmen, have 5 children, including 2 who are current students at Notre Dame. Lou, thanks so much for being here tonight.
Thank you, Dolly. First of all, I just want to quiet anyone's dismay. I am not one of the surprise guests. A lot better things lie ahead after listening to me, but it's a thrill to be with members of the Notre Dame family. Certainly wish that we could be together in person, but it's good even if it's a virtual engagement, given the times. It was really an inspiration to see a number of you speaking from all over the world, all over the country, seeing the absolute wonderful work that you do and living out Father Soren's vision of being forces for good in a world that is more than ever deeply in need. So we're grateful for your leadership. We're grateful for your loyalty and your allegiance to the university. We're even grateful for the ways that you try to hold us to the highest ideals, asking us to be better, to live out Notre Dame's vision and mission more fully. And we really appreciate all of your feedback, your leadership, and your engagement, even tuning in with us tonight. It's a pleasure to be at the university. It's also, as Dolly said, a thrill to be a parent. This has been a tumultuous semester. It's brought a lot of challenges with this crisis that we are experiencing right now. The global pandemic, all the economic dislocation for so many families, and of course, all of the racial unrest as well. It's my pleasure now, and indeed honor, to introduce to you a distinguished class of 1976 and class of 1978, where he did both his undergraduate degree and his master's degree in philosophy. And he happens now to be the 17th president of the University of Notre Dame. please join me in welcoming Father John I. Jenkins. Welcome, Father John.
Thanks, Lou. Great to be with you and great to be with the Notre Dame alumni family.
We got a number of questions, but I'm going to start out with one that is probably on most everyone's mind. Recently, you've experienced your own health setback, and people want to know, how are you feeling, and any reflections that you might have from the past challenging few weeks.
Well, sure, Lou, I feel fine. Thank you very much. My symptoms were not so bad that I got through it pretty well with a fever. I had fatigue, but doing well now. And so thanks for asking, and thanks for the wonderful shows of concern and prayers from the whole Notre Dame family. As you mentioned, a lot of attention was focused on the White House event. I do want to say I'm proud of our alumna and faculty member, Amy Barrett, for being selected for the Supreme Court. But I'm not proud of my behavior and not wearing a mask and being at the White House, and apologize for that. But we're moving on, and it's a challenging time, and I think the people on campus are just showing such dedication to get through this tough period.
Thanks, Father John. We're going to move on to some questions that come from members of the Notre Dame family far and wide. And the first question seems to be a rather timely one. Let's play it.
Hi, I'm Avis Boyd, class of '82, and I come to you today from just outside of St. Cloud, Minnesota, in Sartell, Minnesota. My question, please address the prioritization and the changing state of the university where diversity, equity, and inclusion measures are concerned, since many of our stakeholders are really unaware. Thank you.
Avis, thanks for that question, and thanks for all your work in this area, and thanks for your challenges you've given us. There's nothing I've thought more about in the past months, next to the pandemic and opening in the midst of COVID, than the questions you've asked. And we've been working on this issue. I think it's important to acknowledge our feelings and our need to get better, and we have to do that, and recognize this is an opportunity. I really believe that it's an opportunity for us to improve. And just let me not be, this won't be an exhaustive list, but some of the things that are going on, I want people to know. We had our Black students have drawn our attention to a number of concerns. One of them is about policing. That's sort of so central to the terrible incidents of George Floyd and Breonna Turner, and what can we do at Notre Dame to make sure our policing and security is fair and equitable? And I give credit to our students and credit to our Notre Dame Police Department, Carrie K. Shibata, who's our police chief, to engage in conversations and to acknowledge the feelings, but to formulate a set of policies, very concrete, that will ensure equitable, fair policing here on campus, that people are treated fairly no matter what group they're from. So that's one thing. There's been extensive conversation about what sort of classes, what sort of discussions, what sort of things can we do with our students to increase an awareness of what we call cultural competency, to treat everyone equitably and with respect. We've been doing that, but we can improve, and there's been a lot of conversation there. Miranda, from whom you'll hear later, has met with all our faculty from underrepresented groups and spoken with them, heard their concerns, and also emphasized with our deans and our colleges and departments the importance of hiring faculty from underrepresented groups. And I think we've seen some fruit from those discussions. We're not hiring too much in our staff right now with the economic situation, but we have policies in place where our pools for hiring must be diverse, where if we're going to have training programs to help people become managers and directors, those groups must be diverse. So those are some of the things we're working on. And one of the things I've asked and Jack Brennan, our board chair, we've worked together on, is to create a committee, an ad hoc task force of trustees. It is led by Byron Spruill, a Notre Dame graduate who is currently vice president of the NBA, very involved in the recent season, and a number of other trustees who are really knowledgeable about and committed to equity and diversity and inclusion. What I've asked them to do is just take a look at all aspects of our work here at Notre Dame. Give us a report. Tell us how we can improve. Tell us where the blind spots are. Tell us how we can get better. And so they're working on that now. I know they're working very hard on that. And I hope to have a report in the new year with recommendations. And I assure you, we will listen to what is said, and we will continue to try to make Notre Dame the diverse, equitable, inclusive place it is called to be.
Thank you, Avis, for that question. Thanks, Father John, for your response. The next question we don't have on video, but it also comes from the Notre Dame family and is related. The question is this: beyond Notre Dame, 2020 has highlighted the importance that all of us are to speak up and participate in addressing broader societal injustices. What more do you feel that the university can do to help highlight and address the broader issues of discrimination and inequity in our society?
Well, it's a great question. Thanks for the question. A lot of things. Again, I have to mention our new provost, Lynn Miranda, so committed and creative in this area. And Lynn has formulated an initiative, very broad, multifaceted initiative called Moment to See, Courage to Act on this issue of racial inequity on social justice. And there are many aspects to it, and I'm not going to go through them all, but one interesting one, and I think this is a good challenge for our university. You know, we have great relationships with the local community, with South Bend and the region, and that they have been improving, and our work together is really moved forward. And there's a lot of vitality in the local community, but there's a lot of poverty. And there's a lot of racial inequity in the community. And so, you know, those are areas I think we can work on. Do I have a plan detail right now? No, but they are areas we can give attention to and move forward on. I want to mention the Klaus Center for Civil and Human Rights, a center that was dear to Father Hesberg's heart, that is now directed by Professor Jennifer Mason McAward from our law school. And Jen is really focused on issues of racial justice. She has a really interesting series now of speakers. She has everyone from Archbishop Wilton Gregory of Washington to Nicole Hannah-Jones, a Pulitzer Prize winner and another graduate, to talk about anti-racism. How can we not simply be not racist, but against kind of racist structures? So those are some of the things, both through the action of the university as an institution and our research. Those are examples of things we can do. But I'd also just say every Notre Dame graduate can be part of this conversation to achieve greater equity, greater respect for all people, to overcome the legacy of racism. These are all part of what we should be doing as members of the Notre Dame family, and we will work on it here. I urge all of us to work on these critical issues for our nation, for everyone, every one of us.
Thanks, Father John. The next question is about academics during the pandemic.
Good.
My name is Maggie Roque. I live in Minneapolis, Minnesota, and graduated in 2015. My question is, are there any areas within Notre Dame academics that have unexpectedly flourished under these unprecedented circumstances? What feedback have you received from the faculty about hybrid and remote learning? While I can only assume it has hindered many tasks and objectives, has it provided any unique and beneficial opportunities for the professors and our students? Thank you.
Thanks for that great question. One thing I will say right off the bat is our students and faculty agree that distance remote learning just isn't a substitute for in-person learning. And our students are happy to be back, happy to be in class, and our faculty feel that way too. However, sometimes if a student is in quarantine or in isolation, it's necessary to or if a faculty member has a health condition that doesn't allow them to teach in person, it's necessary to teach remotely. And our faculty have been very creative in trying to move their classes to a remote framework. And so I think that's interesting and important that we acquire these skills and ability, both technological infrastructure as well as pedagogical skills that allow us to do remote teaching, even though it isn't quite what in-person teaching is. There's been some very interesting research, I'd say, around this. A couple of our professors did some really interesting research on masks, on what masks are effective and what can prevent the spread of disease, and just did some really interesting work on that to kind of identify the masks that are effective. There's been some interesting work on wastewater testing as a way to identify if there is an outbreak in a dorm or a particular place. And so there's a lot of work on that. I would say mainly what I've seen this semester, and it's been a tough semester in so many ways. It's been hard and people have been asked to do so much, but a remarkable coming together of students and faculty and graduate students who serve as instructors in classes to help to adapt to the current situation and help our students learn. It is the creativity, the commitment, the imaginativeness of so many people is truly remarkable. And so if there's one thing I'd point to in the issue of teaching, it's that. It's just that the deep dedication to deal with the limitations, but do it in a creative way together so that Notre Dame can be a place of learning even in this time of pandemic.
Thanks, Maggie, for your question. The next question, Father John, has to do with the impact of COVID-19 on the university.
Good evening. My name is Tim Chen. I'm with the Quad Cities Club. And I have a question, Father Jenkins, about COVID-19. It has impacted every aspect of institutions of higher learning across the country, and especially profound impacts on the financial well-being of universities and colleges. So what has the financial impact been on Notre Dame and the overall financial health of the university?
Tim, that's a great question. Another question we think a lot about. And you're right, it has impacted every institution of higher education dramatically. And it has impacted Notre Dame. But I would say Notre Dame is blessed, and I can't take credit for this is before me, with a kind of far-sighted and responsible approach to finances that, we don't live on the edge. So if we're hit by a crisis, we can find a way to manage it. Now, this crisis has hit us. If you watch our football games, you see the stadium just has students. It's pretty empty, and that's a lot of people who would visit campus, buy a ticket, visit the bookstore, eat at the Morrison or stay at the Morrison. That's not happening, and that's a big impact. There's also a tremendous amount of expense with giving tests for COVID to our students, faculty, staff, with various precautionary measures we have to take. That's draining a lot of dollars. So it is a real challenge. But what we've done, no salary increases for faculty and staff this past year. That's been difficult, but it's allowed us to save some money. We froze staff hiring. We pulled back on building projects. We implemented a 5% budget reduction. Now, I'm very proud of the fact that we've laid no one off and we put no one on furlough. That's really important. Everybody's a member of the Notre Dame family, and we want to keep them employed and keep them part of this family. So we're proud of that. But because of these steps, because of these reductions, we were able to end fiscal year 2020, that ended July 1st, with a balanced budget, because we were able to make some cuts and save some money and balance. Now, big challenge in the coming year because there's even greater expenses and more difficulties. But I think we'll be able to weather it, not without loss, not without a great amount of trouble, but again, because we've been farsighted in our planning, that and frankly, because of the tremendous generosity of you, the Notre Dame family, particularly for financial aid, which that is also a greater cost now because more families are struggling. But because of your generosity and because of good management, I think we'll get through this, not without difficulty, but I'm confident we will.
Good to see you, Tim. Tim and I were fellow Sorenites back in the day. The next question, Father John, has to do with admissions and financial aid.
I'm Louis Lamoya. I'm from Jacksonville, Florida, and I graduated from University of Notre Dame in 1966. And my question is, what is being done about the fact that the tuition costs have surpassed what the middle-class Notre Dame family can easily afford?
Well, thanks for that question, and that's a question we think a lot about. And what we've been able to do because of the generosity of so many people, have what we call a need-blind admission policy that admits students regardless of their ability to pay. And then we have a formula. It's a government formula for what a family can afford to pay. So given what a family's resources are, what can they afford to pay? And we provide financial aid to cover the rest. 48% of our current undergraduate freshman class is on that need-based aid. And the median award is $47,000, so it's quite significant. And 25% of the current freshman class on such aid come from families that make in excess of $200,000. So it's not the case that financial aid only goes to the poorest families and the poorest students. We try to estimate what a family's needs are and provide what we can to help that student come to Notre Dame and flourish at Notre Dame. And many of the students who receive aid are students from what clearly middle class or even upper middle class families, but they have needs, and so we try to meet those needs. I know, and I don't want to sound glib, because I know the sacrifices families make to send their son or daughter to Notre Dame are really great. I know that, and I know the sacrifices are great. But at the same time, economists will tell you that, the earning power for a graduate from a school like Notre Dame is $1 million, they'll say. That's roughly the figure they give in enhanced earning power. The full cost of a Notre Dame education is about a quarter of that. So for a family to give a child a gift that will, in the course of that person's lifetime, provide goods 4 times of what they pay for that gift, that's a great legacy to leave for young people. And that's what my parents, I come from a family of 12, they made tremendous sacrifices to educate us, but there's no greater gift that I received from my family than the education that they gave me. And I think that's true of many people. So we do try to make Notre Dame accessible to everyone who's admitted to Notre Dame, and many of those are from middle class families, and we'll continue to try to do that.
It has to do with the current state of politics in our country.
Good evening. My name is Jose Contreras, class of 1994, coming to you from South Texas, the Notre Dame Club of Rio Grande Valley. Father John, our question is as such. It is becoming abundantly clear that the sanctity of bipartisan leadership has been shelved by political divide and daily out-of-control spin from both major parties. Extremism and even moderate polar identity is clashing daily, knocking on the doors of both social and political civil war. How can ND institutionally fight to balance our young adults so that the only radical movement is to undefine extreme party affiliation, encourage meaningful intellectual conversation, find the middle, and embrace the best ideas of both sides of any aisle in the spirit of true social and national progress?
Jose, that's a great question, and it's something that's really close to my heart. I think it's Yeah, it's so important for us. I read an article recently that angry voters are loyal voters. And so there's an incentive for politicians to make their constituencies angry at the other side. And we see that a lot in our country. But the problem is angry voters don't trust government. And so it's hard to you just get gridlocked. So I would say that the thing to do is don't let people make you hate people who you don't agree with. I mean, we all have to work on that. I can disagree with people. I can disagree passionately, but I shouldn't let myself hate them because I think there's a lot of politics of hate of the other side, both sides. And I'm not talking about one side or the other, both sides. That destroys government and our ability to work together to solve problems. We must overcome that. So that's the one thing I'd say. Let's overcome that each individually and engage one another reasonably, not with politics of hate.
Thank you, Jose, for your question. Thank you all. Thanks, Father John, for this time tonight. We deeply value and appreciate your humble yet extraordinary leadership. Now in the 16th year of your presidency, know that our prayers are with you. Before I sign off with Father John, I just want to invite all of you to join us next Monday and Tuesday night from 6:42 p.m. Eastern Standard Time until midnight, where we will have multiple hours of broadcast for Notre Dame Day, where many different compelling stories about Notre Dame and its varied dimensions will be shared. And it's an opportunity for you to support your alumni clubs or any other area of priority as well at the university at any level. So thank you all again. And for Father John and myself, our prayers are with all of you and also our deep appreciation.
Thank you, Lou. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you, Father John, and thank you, Lou, for that insightful conversation. Our next guest has one of the most amazing stories of all the Notre Dame family. He graduated from Notre Dame in 1936. Yes, you heard that right, 1936. He helped found the Logan Center in South Bend for people with special needs, and it is such an important part of this community. He ran for Congress at the age of 101. And in 2019, he received the Distinguished Alumnus Award from the Alumni Association. Dolly had the chance to catch up with 107-year-old Joe Newman just a few days ago.
We met playing bridge for 2 years. We kind of flirted with each other, but neither one of us picked it up. He said, "I'd like to take you home." Just waiting for that moment for about 3 months at this point. And we're sitting in the car talking. I said, "How about coming in?" He said, No, we'll just talk for a few minutes. Meanwhile, those few minutes was 2 hours. And the battery ran down. So I called AAA. So he had to come in the house. It was 3 o'clock by the time he got home. Yeah, not one kiss. And that's God's honest truth, not one kiss.
There is a tentative plan which her daughter is putting in place that when she reaches 100, we'll get married. We keep going for any occasion that gives us a chance to have enjoyment. Whenever you have an opportunity, have fun. Don't pass them up because you don't know how many of them you're going to have.
Hi, Joe. Hi, Anita.
Hi, how you doing?
Hi, Dolly.
How are you?
Fine, thank you. Doing
What
well.
have you been up to since we last chatted in maybe the spring of 2019?
Well, go ahead, dear. Since we last chatted, Anita and I have moved into a independent living facility here in Sarasota. Recognize the fact that we're getting a little bit older and they perhaps need a little bit more care. And what is more important to that care is available when one of us leaves. And so it was last August when we moved her into this independent living facility. We're enjoying it.
We have a nice apartment and a cute, nice view. We see a pond out here with a nice wooden bridge going across it. That adds romance to the apartment we're in. What do you think, Doll?
I think you're right, and to each other. We spend 24/7 together, and that's a lot of time.
Yeah, especially since the lockdown. Yeah.
There's a lot. It's a wonderful place to be. I was not anxious to go, but we were living. My daughter was living with us, and it was really getting hard for her. In fact, if she sees us trip a little, it would get her scared, and that was one of the reasons we left. But we're completely independent.
Well, and it sounds like you've made some friends. Tell us, Joe and Anita, tell us about your Zoom community.
Tell us about
the Zoom community. That's me.
It's crazy. Me crazy.
No, I have a theory, and it's probably developed when working on Logan, that they provide a lot of physical exercise here. And my statement was that we need more mental exercise. That is just as important for elderly people to exercise their minds, particularly as we all know, as we get older. We have trouble with language. Words that we thought we knew, we forget, and we stumble more, and obviously forget more. So we have here what is called Socrates Cafe, because it means you're supposed to get together and think and reason.
And now they're on Zoom.
Yeah, we used to fill that room. We don't get as many on Zoom because that's a difficulty for some. But it's fun.
You got a birthday coming up in January, right?
I do. Yes.
You're going to be 108?
108. Yeah.
Nice of you to run around with such a young woman.
Yes, of course.
I'm not crazy. I went to Notre Dame.
Birthday 100, and happy birthday in January to you, Joe.
Thank you.
We're so proud of you, and we're so thrilled to have you part of the Notre Dame family.
Isn't that neat? 108 on his next birthday. He has a lot to teach us, a lot of good advice there. Thank you to Joe Newman and his wife for tuning in with us tonight. Now, our next guest is one of the newest leaders to join the Notre Dame family. Her distinguished academic career includes time at Duke University, the University of Michigan, and most recently at Rice, where she served as the university's Howard R. Hughes Provost from 2015 to 2019. And even though she is new here on campus, her Notre Dame roots run deep. Her father, Constancio, earned his master's degree in civil engineering from the university in 1962. And it was that fellowship that was instrumental in her family's immigration to the United States. And it was the positive experience at Notre Dame and in the South Bend community that was part of the reason why they decided to stay. Please join us in welcoming Lynn Miranda, the Charles and Jill Fisher Provost, for a conversation with Dolly.
Hey, everyone.
Lynn, so happy to have you at Notre Dame. But a lot
I'm so happy to be here.
Family don't yet know you and don't know very much about you. Can you tell them a little bit about yourself?
Sure, absolutely. I'm glad to be here with you, and I'm really looking forward to the day when circumstances allow me to be in person with more members of the Notre Dame family. That's been one of the hardest things for me. So a little bit more about me. How about if I say I have 6 roles: wife, mother, daughter, sister, faculty member, provost. So start with the first, wife. I've been married for 30 years to the love of my life and my best friend, Chris Guerin. Mother, I have 3 children, a son and 2 daughters, and my middle one just got engaged, so soon I'll gain another son. daughter. My dad, who Leanne talked about, has passed, but my mom is alive and let's just say feisty. And I'm hoping to convince her to move to South Bend to go full circle. Sister, I'm the youngest of 4. I have 3 older brothers, and people who think that 3 older brothers and being the only girl means that I was spoiled when I was growing up do not know my brothers. Faculty member. I love the life of the mind, the opportunity to train the next generation and advance the knowledge frontier, which are at the core of what faculty do, to me is just the very best way to spend one's life. My research focuses on how to foster environments where all children can prosper. I continue that research, and I just love the ability to try to make a difference in the world. And last, the Charles and Jill Fisher Provost. I'm going to tell you it's the best job at the university. Don't let Father John tell you that being president is better, because it's not. Being provost is the best job. You're the chief academic officer, which means that all of the research and educational programs all over the university all report up through the provost's office. And that gives me an excuse. It's technically a responsibility, but it feels more like an excuse for someone who's really curious to go and learn about every nook and cranny all over the campus, all of the different programs, etc. Hear about what people's hopes and aspirations are, connect ideas that you're hearing about in different places, and then work as hard as you can to create ways to let loose people's creativity and advance all of those wonderful ideas that you see in the Notre Dame community.
Oh, Mary-Lynn, I beg to differ. Being the executive director of the Notre Dame Alumni Association is absolutely the best job at Notre Dame.
We can battle about it.
It's good we both love what we do. Your career has included more than 2 decades at your alma mater, Duke, as well as time at the University of Michigan and Rice University. 3 outstanding institutions in their own right. So I'm really curious, what was it that drew you to Notre Dame?
So as Leanne mentioned in her very kind introduction, we have a long-standing family connection. My father got his master's here. We were able to immigrate to the United States because of a fellowship that the university provided to my family. And we have a fondness for South Bend as well because of how well received my family was at the time. But more recently, and what might want me to come here as a provost, I have an enormous respect and fascination and love for this commitment to the formation of students' mind, body, and spirit, this holistic formation. And I've actually been talking about that holistic formation, not just about our undergraduate students, but about our graduate students and our faculty members as well, because we're all trying, and our staff, because we're all trying to discern our path every day. We're all trying to become bigger and stronger and better. And we're all trying to form ourselves and reform ourselves. And that emphasis on discerning a path and holistic formation, which is uniquely Notre Dame, is just so very attractive to me. I also like the fact that there's headroom at the university. It's not a place that wants to sit on its laurels and say everything's fine. Let's just stay how we are. It has lots of aspirations, and it has room for people all across, from alums to faculty to staff to students at both the undergraduate and graduate level, to articulate what those ideas for growth and big changes and exciting ideas at the university. I will admit that I was very much looking forward to, and it's turned out to be what I thought it would be, the opportunity to work with Father John. I find him to be an inspiring leader. He's sort of the ultimate introvert leader. He's thoughtful and really brings out the best in people around him. I quite appreciate that. And I should probably mention that I love snow. I love snow more than probably most people that you've met. And my husband and I bought a farm, so we're farmers now. So we read the Farmer's Almanac, and the Farmer's Almanac says that it's going to be a big snow year this year. So I'm super excited about that.
Well, that's great. I have to tell you, I'm not a huge fan of snow, so I'm not looking forward to a big snowfall. But I always look forward to the fall and winter at Notre Dame. So this academic year has been a challenge in so many ways. But in the effort to limit positive cases and keep everyone physically healthy, one area that might have gone unnoticed for a while is the area of mental well-being. Can you give us an update on how the students are handling stress? And I'd love to hear more about some of the resources that are being offered to them, especially as reading days and finals approach in just a few short weeks.
Yeah. You know, we all knew that this would be a challenging semester, and we have been paying attention to mental health from the very beginning. So it's a challenging semester for everyone, for our faculty, for our staff, especially for our students at both the undergraduate and the graduate level, and with no breaks. And with our high achieving students, they tend to carry very demanding course loads. So our students are generally accustomed to powering through, right? That's what we do at Notre Dame. We power through challenges with late nights and hard work and just digging in. But this semester is different, and so are the pressures. So many students are feeling and reporting the strain of these pressures, and we are trying to respond as best we can. As you would expect, we've increased the number of resources that are available through our counseling center. We've also established a working group to pay close attention and make recommendations, which we then on the operations side start implementing to provide stress relief to students as we figure out more ways that would be helpful. And we're soliciting the students' ideas about this as well. And we've also asked faculty members to consider creative ways that they can reduce student academic stress this semester. Maybe allow students to drop a test or drop an assignment, give an open book exam. You can imagine all kinds of creative ways. Just generally understand and acknowledge to students that this semester is different from others. What I oftentimes say to both my children and my students is sometimes things seem hard because they actually are hard. And this is a hard semester. We're trying to incorporate a lot of new practices, including a few days off throughout the semester and the spring semester. And I just want to assure you and any parents who are out there, any alums, that please be assured that we are very focused on this issue.
Thanks so much for that. I'm curious, what about the winter session? I'm probably also curious because with the fall ending on November 20th and spring not this coming till February 3rd when they come back, it's a much longer break than usual. And what can you tell us about the opportunities the university will be offering for the students over that 10-week break? Because I have a sophomore and I got to figure out what is he going to do for 10 weeks.
Yeah. I remember my two older have graduated college already, and I remember when they would come home on longer breaks, thinking, I hope they're well occupied. So we are trying to arrange a whole series of virtual internships, virtual community engagement projects, career discernment activities to help students figure out what do they want to do with their lives. We're going to have a limited number of courses available for students to take in January. These are meant to be like 1 or 2 credit. We will have a few 3-credit courses, but mostly these 1 or 2 credit, explore something completely different and low stakes, because the last thing we want is for people to do a very intensive January term and then go straight into 4 days later, a 14-week semester, especially given what we've seen. So lots of opportunities to explore all kinds of creative ideas, whether it's through internships, research engagements. We're going to do immersive research experiences for students. We're asking faculty to volunteer to take on students. I'm going to take a few on in my own research lab. I'm looking forward to that. And we're doing a lot of planning, but we're doing that planning talking to students, and we've surveyed students so that we really understand the kinds of things that would be appealing to them, that would be refreshing to them and rejuvenating to them before they start the spring term.
Thanks, Marilyn. Let's move ahead now to some of the questions from our alumni and friends. The first one focuses, of course, on COVID-19's long-term impact on learning.
Hi there, Brent Kelly, member of the class of 2011 and also a member of the Notre Dame fencing family, 2011 national champions, go Irish. And my question is, the digital networking of the world has made geospatial boundaries less of an obstacle to learning. COVID-19 has in some ways served as a warning shot to traditional models of educational instruction that the times are changing at a relentless and sometimes ruthless pace. So what are your thoughts on the growing trend of distance learning and virtual classrooms? And what are the implications for Notre Dame?
Cool. How many questions? Ask them how many.
Our experience at Notre Dame, where we are offering 85% of our classes in person this semester, especially in comparison to the many universities that are offering 85, 90% of their classes online, all of those experiences have reinforced for us the power of in-person education with a focus on the holistic development of young men and women. As a research university, having our faculty and graduate students and postdoctoral associates and undergraduate research assistants together in community leads to, these kind of unexpected ideas and what I refer to as intellectually riffing. You're talking about ideas and thinking about how to solve a problem, and all of a sudden something new comes out of that. So we think that's very valuable as well. At the same time, we need to embrace educational technology. We need to embrace some of these changes that we know are going on. But we should be thinking about it within the context of where that type of technology allows us to deliver education more effectively. So, for example, if I want to give more students an opportunity to study abroad who might not otherwise go and get a global experience because of a key required course or two that they have during their junior year, then if I offer a couple of those critical classes remotely, then they can still have their study abroad experience and stay on track to graduate. Similarly, we have more students who are interested in these extended internships. If it's possible for them to do an extended internship and still take a class or two at Notre Dame, or still kind of keep pace with all of the things that are required for their majors, that might be attractive as well. I'm also really excited about some ideas that we're exploring about deeper and more sustained connections to the alumni community. I want every single alum, when they think about, I'm thinking about a job change or I need to learn something new about this, I want the first thought that goes through their mind to be, let me check out what Notre Dame is offering. Maybe Notre Dame can help me with this next stage in my life. There are many places taking place in higher education. We're experimenting with lots of different approaches, and we're staying in close communication with other universities and looking at what their experiments are, so that we can learn as much as possible about where remote learning works most effectively.
Thanks for that. The next question focuses on service, something we know is near and dear to the hearts of Notre Dame students and a big part of our mission.
Hello, my name is Charlie Gardner. I am class of 2010 with a BA and a MA in 2012. I live in Winston-Salem, North Carolina, and my question tonight is, how has COVID-19 impacted students' ability to participate in local service activities, in particular through the Center for Social Concerns? Thank you.
Charlie, I wish I had a different answer for you. This has really been heartbreaking for a lot of people here, including myself. Community engagement has been a big part of the way that I've spent time at a university, at all the universities that I've been at. So the short answer to your question, Charlie, is that it has had a tremendous negative impact on our ability to conduct local service activities. We are implementing a number of programs virtually, particularly tutoring. We have vastly expanded tutoring to kids all over the South Bend area with all of the online education that's going on in our K-12 schools. We're finding that parents need more help and support, so we've really ramped up our tutoring through a program that is overseen by the Institute for Educational Initiatives. But for both our students and the communities they serve, it's just not the same having all of this virtually. We had hoped to resume some in-person programs in the spring semester, but given what cases are looking like both in our region and more broadly, it remains unclear when that will be possible. I wish I could give you a different answer. I truly do.
Let's hope soon. So following up on Father John's comments earlier, this last question for you, Lynn, focuses on social justice and equality.
Hi, my name is Ashley Wright. I'm from Albuquerque, New Mexico, and I was class of 2009. My question is, what does the university feel its role and responsibility is in educating students regarding systemic and institutional racism in this country? In light of current conversations about racism, is the university considering developing a required course for undergraduates regarding systemic and institutionalized racism?
So thank you for that question, Ashley. I'm going to start by saying that while this question, so my own research, my entire career has been focused on health disparities. So I'll start by saying that while this question is rooted in interests that I share with you, Ashley, regarding people of color in the United States and internationally, my reaction as provost is deeply rooted in the Pastoral Letter issued in 2018 by the U.S. Conference of Catholic Bishops. So this Pastoral Letter is called Open Wide Our Hearts. And I just want to quote something from it, which is, the Pastoral Letter acknowledges the existence of systemic racism and states, here I quote, "Love compels each of us to resist racism courageously. It requires us to reach out generously to the victims of this evil, to assist the conversion needed in those who still harbor racism, and to begin to change policies and structures that allow racism to persist." So the U.S. Conference of Catholic Bishops has called on all Catholics, has called on the world to think more deeply about systemic racism. And if they're calling on all Catholics, there's a special call to those of us who work at Catholic universities, right? So the Core Curriculum Committee actually has a proposal in front of it right now to make the study of systemic racism a core requirement. It was very well received by the Core Curriculum Committee. They are now in the process of engaging in conversations with stakeholders all over campus. I'm learning a lot about how one does anything so audacious as suggest some type of change in the core curriculum. So there's lots of processes and consultations. We don't want to, with something like this, we want to make sure that it is embraced by the full community. But we don't want to let the idea languish. This is not something that we're going to take, 5 years to study it. We're working vigorously to have these consultations and to think through this. In addition, many of our instructors and programs and courses are actively engaging students on these issues. I'm certainly in a whole series of conversations with students in a more informal way around these issues. And we're also working to establish a Center for the Study of Race and Ethnicity at the university within the College of Arts and Letters. So lots of good work going around on these topics. Father John mentioned some other work as well.
Thanks, Marilyn. We really appreciate your time, and we are incredibly grateful that you chose Notre Dame.
Oh, I'm blessed to be here. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Marilyn. And thank you, Dolly, for that great conversation. Well, when she announced her retirement in April, many people thought Muffet McGraw would take some time to relax, take some downtime. She deserved it. But since stepping down after 33 years at the helm of Notre Dame women's basketball, she hasn't slowed down one bit.
No, in September, we were honored to partner with Coach McGraw, the Bread of Life food drives, and Holtz's Heroes for Meals with Muffet, a nationwide food drive to help the 37 million people in the U.S. who are food insecure. A couple of days ago, I had a chance to catch up with Trevor Morris, a 2001 graduate and the vice president of the Notre Dame Club of Central New Jersey, one of the many clubs that participated in Meals with Muffet this fall.
Trevor, thanks for joining me. I just wanted to start by thanking you and the Notre Dame Club of Central Jersey for your outstanding efforts in the Meals for Muffet food drive. Over the course of the month, the Notre Dame family, I'm looking at my numbers to make sure, rallied to collect 147,000 pounds of food and raised $87,000 in support of this cause. And your club alone collected 30,000 pounds and raised $11,000. How did you do that? And why did you feel so passionate about this?
Well, Dolly, thank you for having me, and thank you for providing us this platform to do just such great work. We started out a few years back just looking to get involved, And we partnered with New Jersey State Police, and a person there, Trooper Ronaldo Cruz, has been very instrumental in our ability to really touch and be able to get to communities that were a little bit disenfranchised. So we started doing grassroots work, and have been able to really partner with these organizations in these communities and do a lot to help these people out. And we've partnered with ShopRite, we've partnered with Wakefern and Pepsi, and just have been completely really blessed to have the support of these organizations and other people within the club, and just it's been fun, and just been able to help a lot of people out who really need it.
That's a huge amount of the total. Did you have any idea you were going to be able to do that much?
When we start out with our initiatives, it's just, let's just reach out to as many people as we can and see what happens. And again, like I said, with ShopRite, Wakefern, and Pepsi, they always step up to the plate. And the initial surge was, I think 18,000 pounds that they donated to the facility, Trenton, Mercer County Health, that we partnered with, and they just came through.
Well, look who's joining us.
Hey, Muffet.
Trevor, oh my God, thank you. Those
Wow.
were some huge numbers. I don't know how you did it, but that was amazing. Thank you so much for all you did. And your club, you got them moving. So great job leading the charge. That was amazing.
Thank you so much for your support, Muffet. Thank you so much for your leadership. And we're just blessed to be a part of something great, and blessed to be a part of something that just gives, especially during a time where people really need it more than ever. And just happy to just be a part of something with regards to the club, with regards to the organizations that we teamed with, and just making a difference in whatever way we can.
Well, you sure did make a difference. Wasn't he phenomenal, Dolly?
He was amazing. And Muffet, thanks for your leadership on this. And I think you've got something else that you want to share.
Well, I'm hoping that Trevor has a kind of a surprise package there, possibly maybe one more thing to open. Yes.
The Amazon guy came.
Please wait to open.
And I was told, please wait and wait to open. So. Oh, wow. Oh, wow. Thank you so much.
Oh, I know there's an inscription. There's an inscription on there somewhere.
Oh, wow. This is awesome. This is really, really awesome. Thank you so much, Muffet.
Oh, thank you. I really appreciate all you did for us to make this such a success. So next year, how are you going to top it?
Well, just work a little bit harder and just, work off of what we've been able to do now so far. So just continue the grassroots, continue reaching out, and, continue working with our local community police officers and everybody involved, and getting everybody with the club and surrounding clubs involved in what we're doing.
Yeah.
Trevor, thanks a million.
Awesome job.
I
Muffet,
really
thanks
appreciate
for
you guys.
leadership. I look forward to doing it again next year.
Oh, what a fun surprise. How cool is that? Thank you to Trevor for that incredible work, and the rest of the Notre Dame family who participated in that inspiring project. And now I'd like to introduce a few more of our amazing clubs around the world.
Greetings from Wrigleyville. Hi, I'm Keith Melaragno, class of '81, and president of the Notre Dame Club of Chicago. It seems only appropriate that I'm standing underneath the Chicago Cubs marquee to remind everyone just how different the past few months have been. Summer was sure different, but baseball tried. Our club activities have been different, but we've tried. I am so proud of all the clubs across the United States that have continued to engage our students and alumni in Our Ladies University. Go Irish.
Greetings from the Notre Dame Club of the Mid-Hudson Valley. I'm Linda Legault-Quinn, and this is Les McCarthy, and we're standing on the walkway over the Hudson, home of our signature event, our ALS Walk. Les and I are co-presidents of the Notre Dame Club and co-chairs of the ALS Walk. In
In 2009, at our first walk, we raised just about $4,900. 2 days ago, at our 12th walk, we believe we will now have a grand total of $2 million. The power of partnerships with the community. Go Irish.
Greetings from the Notre Dame Club of Memphis, Tennessee. We are a dynamic, award-winning club with over 100 members and a strong commitment to serve our students and local community. One highlight is the 32 straight years in which we have sponsored 2 students as part of the Summer Service Learning Program at the St. Teresa of Calcutta's Missionary of Charity Homeless Shelter, and next is the years of service at the Dorothy Day House of Hospitality. We send well wishes to all at this unique Notre Dame night.
Greetings from Raleigh, North Carolina, from the Notre Dame Club of Eastern North Carolina. We come to you from Tralee Irish Pub in Raleigh, our favorite place to go for a game watch and to get a pint. Go Irish!
I'm Don Smale, president of the Notre Dame Club of San Joaquin. Greetings from Stockton, gateway to the California Gold Rush, source of the gold first used on the Dome in 1882. Our UND event was canceled this year. During this difficult time of pandemic and historic forest fires, our club members have reached out to support all those in need, truly becoming a force for good in our communities. 4 years ago, a 4th grade class from Stockton traveled to campus for a football game weekend. The ND class of 2029 is now zooming through 8th grade. The students send their very best wishes to all ND alumni as they pursue their golden dreams. Be safe and go Irish.
Hello, from San Antonio, Texas. I'm Val Alonso, class of 96, and I've been honored to serve as the president of our local club and now as the Southwest Regional Director for the Diversity Council. I'm also an ND mom. I'm here at Mission San Jose, where we often gather for Mariachi Mass and to remind our members that we are all ND. During this stressful time in our world, I have been inspired by the strength and unity of our Notre Dame family. Remember, there's always a reason to celebrate and serve in Our Lady's name. God bless you and go Irish.
Well, that sounds beautiful. And we are delighted to be joined now by our final guest of the evening, a member of the class of 1976. Jack Swarbrick currently serves as the university's vice president and the James E. Rohr Director of Athletics, a position he's held since 2008.
Since returning to his alma mater, Jack has led the Notre Dame athletics through a period of incredible change, moving from the Big East to the ACC, signing with Under Armour, and helping to oversee the Campus Crossroads project, and an incredible growing emphasis on digital media and video, just to name a few. And Jack, I'll say to you what I say to people all the time, and that is that you are absolutely the right person at the right time to be the AD at Notre Dame. But I'm sure that you're going to be the first to tell us that none of those accomplishments has been as challenging as the hurdles faced these past several months.
Well, thanks, Dolly. It's great to be with you. It has been an extraordinary journey. Frankly, as I'm sure you have found, you're in the midst of it so much, trying to deal with the next hour or the next day. It's hard to gain much perspective. But the thing we know for sure is that it's taken a toll on our student athletes and our coaches. And our job is to try and do everything we can to support them through this really difficult time.
You're no stranger to changes, and especially in the life of an athletics director, it's always fast-paced, even in normal times. But I got to ask, what have the past 7 months been like for you personally?
Sleepless. That's not so different. But everything, there's no precedent. Everything's a first time. Every sports schedule is different. Every practice schedule is different. We've had to change social distance in our locker rooms. We've had to change how we consume meals. We've had to change everything about our weight training and workouts. There's no aspect of our business that hasn't been altered by the pandemic.
So football's in the spotlight, in front of mind for many alumni and all of our friends this fall, but volleyball and men's and women's soccer are playing, and then basketball and hockey aren't far behind. What can you tell us about other student athletes and coaches And how are they all doing amidst this pandemic?
Well, Lynn referred to it earlier, but this is a time of enormous stress for these students, and we're very conscious of that. They have gone through a pattern of athletic seasons since they were little kids, dedicated to their sports, and that's all disrupted now. Our spring sport athletes had no season at all. Our winter sport athletes had no championship season. And so we're very mindful of just how hard this is. I've been going around, as I always do, talking to each of the teams, and it's the uncertainty that is just so hard for them. They are among the most regimented, disciplined people in the world. They schedule every minute of their lives, and I can't tell our basketball team what their schedule is right now. That uncertainty is hard. But I'm glad you mentioned the other teams, because despite the challenges, they're doing great. Men's cross country is ranked #1 in the country. Women's volleyball has had a great start to their season, ranked in the top 5 in the country. Great performances by our soccer team. So despite the challenges, a lot of great performances.
And as you and I talked earlier, the pandemic really isn't the only crisis in our country right now. What are some of the ways our student athletes and coaches and staff have risen to the occasion in the fight for social justice and equality?
Yes, we made a commitment to our students in the summer that we would divide our time, attention, and resources to both crises. Because while it doesn't feel like it, the pandemic will pass. The challenges of social justice have been with us for centuries and will be with us, sadly, for much more time to come. And so it deserves our full time and attention also. We have a really talented member of our staff, Angie Terrain, who has the responsibility for all the programming involving social justice that we do in athletics. I hope our viewers have gone to UND.com and gone to our Stand Together feature within that. That's a collection of all the athlete statements and videos and sort of chronicles what we've been doing relative to racial equality and social justice over the past several months.
Thanks, Jack. So let's move ahead now to some of the questions from the Notre Dame family.
Good evening. This is Mike Ferkovic in Cleveland, Ohio, class of 2007 and 2008. My family and I have really enjoyed turning on Notre Dame football each Saturday in the fall, just to provide a little bit of normalcy during this difficult time. This question's for Jack. However, when we turn on those games, we certainly see the decrease in fans and understand that there's higher operating expenses for testing and providing a safe environment for all those involved. Jack, how do you envision the decrease in football revenue and profits affecting both Olympic sports and overall student aid, not only at Notre Dame, but considering your view nationally, how does that affect other colleges as well?
Thanks. It's a great question, Mike. And by the way, nice Augusta shirt there. I refer to it typically when I talk to people as a financial tsunami. Our business, as you would anticipate, is a little unique in this circumstance in that we retain virtually all our expenses, all the grant and aids for the student athletes, coaches' salaries, all the programming we do for students. Many more new expenses, as you point out, around the pandemic, changing physical spaces, significant testing, but we've lost virtually all of our revenue. No meaningful ticket revenue, greatly reduced NCAA distribution, greatly reduced CFP and ACC distributions. So it is an enormous challenge. Our goal is to try and manage this without impacting our commitment to our students, to try and ensure their experience. It's going to require us to look at it over an extended period of time. There is no one-year solution to this. We were already in the process with the university of restructuring the financial model to make it more stable before any of us knew what COVID-19 was. That work continues, but it's become more challenging as we try and build a future model that now is going to have to figure out how to also accommodate for what will be a 2-year significant shortfall.
Along those lines, the next question from the Notre Dame family is focusing on the future of college football.
Good evening, Jack. This is Dan McCabe from St. Louis, Missouri. Hope you're doing well. I have a quick question for you related to college football, which is on all of our minds these days. COVID-19 has truly upended the landscape of college football. What permanent changes do you anticipate happening? Do you see declines in attendance, maybe a change in conference affiliation, less travel?
Great question, Dan, and we spend a lot of time thinking about what that might be. As suggested by an earlier question, I'm convinced and have been, frankly, since early in the summer or late last spring, that this would be a 2-year dynamic for us. So I'm fearful that next year won't look a lot different for athletics than it does this year. Even after that, I suspect there'll be a slow return by some fans who, either because their habits have changed or they just don't quite feel as comfortable. So I think it'll be several years before we see a full return to sort of the game day atmosphere and the number of people we expect. I think travel will change fundamentally for our teams. We'll do more regional scheduling. We'll still have our conference contests, of course, but I think we'll be more focused on trying to compete and travel regionally. And I then think some of the habits we've adopted, some of the approaches we've taken to practice and weight training and nutrition may be long-term changes, just as an extra measure of protection for, sadly, when the next version of SARS or COVID-19 or whatever it is comes along.
And here's another one, Jack, on how the pandemic has impacted our coaches and student athletes.
Hi, my name's Amy Porter. I'm Notre Dame class of 2014, and I live in Rochester, New York. Obviously, this has been an unprecedented year for Notre Dame athletics. What have you found to be some, if any, surprising benefits or unique opportunities given the current situation for the coaches, staff, and athletes?
I don't know that they've been benefits so much as it has been a reaffirmation of the values of Notre Dame and the remarkable people who work here and go to school here. Our most highly compensated coaches have contributed $1.5 million back to the university to try and help us through this challenging time. Our trainers and our physicians are going sleepless. They are working around the clock to serve our student athletes. Our student athletes have rolled with the punches, have, despite the stress, maintained their spirit, and have stayed committed to the broader issues that they care about. As we referred to earlier, the social justice issues, but they continue to find ways to be engaged in the community despite the challenges of doing so. They continue to find ways to support each other. So I don't know that it's so much that I can find a positive in all of this, so much as it is the reaffirmation of the remarkable nature of this place and the people who choose to be here.
Jack, just a couple more questions. And speaking of community outreach, I'm always so heartened by how our student athletes and coaches do so much for our local community. And here's the next question.
Hi, everyone. Greetings from Madison, Wisconsin. I'm Matt Suarez, class of 2013. This question is for Jack. Jack, in light of the recent shutdown and closures and the documented negative impact on children's health, both mentally and physically, particularly affecting lower income neighborhoods, what steps are Notre Dame athletics taking to further our outreach in the local community, and how is our athletics department positively using the ND brand to advocate for better outcomes in those low income neighborhoods? Thank you all.
Well, thanks for your great question. The pandemic has definitely disrupted that. I can give you so many examples. The annual trip the men's lacrosse team would make to inner city Chicago to spend a day there, community service projects that our teams would be involved in as they travel. We can't do any of that right now. And that's a real loss. Now, I will say the flip side of that is it's caused us to focus even more attention locally and to try and find ways, whether it's virtual engagement, whether it's lending support like Muffet did through the food drive, to our local communities. When we had our march in the summer, our football team led a march through campus. When Dale and Hayes talked, he talked about our focus had to be more local, that we had to make sure that we changed the environment in which we lived first. And we've taken that call seriously to try and do that. But we are challenged by our inability to go into a local school or into a local recreational center. A lot of the things we have typically done before. Having said that, I do want to mention one program which I'm especially proud of that's been enormously successful. Notre Dame played an important role in helping the college football playoff establish its foundation and have that foundation decide to focus on the support of teachers in America. And we are especially focused on retiring the needs of those teachers that get posted on a charitable website called Donors Choose. And so if you go on Donors Choose, and I encourage you to do it, you'll find local schools near you where teachers have posted unmet needs like paper and routine supplies. And so that's been a big part of what we've done through that charity, as well as encouraging more people to get into the profession and trying to support continuing education for teachers.
And the last one from the Notre Dame family, although there were plenty of others, is another Notre Dame football question.
Hey, everybody out there in South Bend. This is Vinny from New Jersey. I'm a lifelong fan and season ticket holder. My question to Notre Dame is, are you going to allow more fans in the stands the day that Notre Dame plays Clemson? Both teams should be ranked number 1 and number 2 in the country. And I'm assuming our Irish are going to come out with a big victory that day. And I'd like to be there to see it. Go Irish.
I love your optimism and thank you for your support, especially as a season ticket holder. Sadly, I can't offer you much encouragement. As Mara Lynn suggested earlier, the numbers in St. Joe County aren't very encouraging. The numbers in the state aren't very encouraging. And so it is really impossible for me to imagine, given the now very short time frame between now and that game, that we'll be able to expand the opportunity for people to go. I wish that were not the case. I love the atmosphere of our stadium for a big game, for a whole campus on a big game weekend. But one more casualty of the pandemic is that game and that weekend will be very limited in attendance, as our other games have been.
Thanks so much, Jack, for joining us and for putting in one more evening for the Notre Dame family. Thank you.
Thanks, Dolly. Great to be with you, and be Irish.
Well, Dolly, it is hard to believe, but our time together is coming to a close. I'd like once again to thank Father John, Lou, Mari, Lynn, and Jack for joining us tonight. And thank you to all of you for tuning in around the world.
It has been so much fun to gather with all of you this evening, to see and hear from so many alumni and friends from all over the Notre Dame family. As we say often, however, our clubs are the lifeblood of the Notre Dame family. And I surely hope it won't be long before we'll be able to get back on the road and be with all of you, because you lift our spirits, you energize us, and you help us remember the mission to be forces for good throughout the world. Thank you again for your continued incredible work and for all that you do to amplify Notre Dame in every one of your communities.
Yes, we can't wait to all be together again. And as we do with so many of our events on campus, Mass at the Basilica, the conclusion of home football games, and at the end of commencement, it is only fitting for us to conclude tonight by singing our alma mater, Notre Dame, Our Mother. And this performance is brought to us by the Notre Dame Magnificat Choir from last month's Notre Dame Music Festival. Thank you again for being with us. Good night, God bless, and go Irish.